Okay, just put your headsets on. If you've got a headset in reach, if you just put that on, you'll be able to hear me through the headset. It's 1:15, we'll make a start. Thank you very much for joining this session on the use of first-party data for personalisation and individualisation. Over the next 25 minutes, I'll try and explain what those terms mean, how we're going to use first-party data for personalisation and individualisation. I'm James Alty, I'm the founder and managing director of Aptico, a British software development business. We develop a range of marketing analytics, automation, visualization, predictive modeling software. We're exhibiting just here in the stand. Come and see us afterwards if you're interested to know more about what we do. So, personalization, clearly not a very novel topic, something everyone is very familiar with, but we're going to talk about how we can take personalization a little bit further, how we can do a bit more with it. Why would we do that? Well, I think we all know the metrics and we live it ourselves, how well we react to personalization of marketing communications. If you get an offer that is well-timed in an appropriate channel, that's appropriately phrased and messaged for you, then you're going to be more likely to respond. And here's an example with Salesforce saying 73% of consumers expect companies to recognize their unique needs and expectations. Here's one from Marketing Tech, 62% of consumers more likely to buy again if they feel that the brand treats them as individuals. So that's individualization in a comment by a research organization. And finally, 80% of consumers, according to Epsilon, are more likely to make a purchase when brands offer personalized experiences. So the industry knows it, the industry researches it, the industry talks about it, we each live it. How do we do it? That's what we're going to look at during today. So we know that organizations that don't incorporate personalization in their communications, they're at risk. They're going to lose customers to those competitive brands that do provide a degree of personalization. But consumers are no longer naive, or they're not naive of personalization, so actually impressing them, actually delivering it, is a different ballgame. It's a bit of a challenge to deliver something that is really going to make people sit up and take note. That's the challenge to each of you, to each of your organizations, as you contemplate how are we going to use this in our organization to ensure that we make a difference, ensure we get the good results. And that's where we're using this slightly made up phrase. You can Google it, it does exist, it's not just our word, but really going to the full individualization, making sure that the marketing we send suits the particular person, the particular channel, the time and the place and the position that they're in their relationship with our brand. So individualization goes a little bit further, and that's the challenge to each of us. How do we go that little bit further? And you could think of it like super personalization, really aiming to ensure that every aspect of your communications are tuned to that particular individual, making sure that you are thinking about everything in what is said, the images that are used, the timing and the channel that are used. And you will need a rich data set in order to achieve that. You'll need to have that really close handle on that individual in order to be able to pull off what could be a dramatic improvement in their reaction to your communications. So, our claim is that your first-party data can drive personalization and go on to drive individualization. But let's start with some basics. So, what is first-party data? That's the data that every organization collects in the natural activities that it undertakes. Whether you are a not-for-profit or the biggest finance house in the world, you're collecting data about your customers. You're recording the interactions you have with those customers, the contracts that you form with those customers, the engagement that they have with you, the communications that you undertake. And it's data that you already own. It's data that you collect in the natural course of your business. And it can be of all sorts of types. So clearly there will be something about the person, the contact, the details of how you have communicated with that person. And remember here we're talking about the identified data, not the anonymous data. We're talking about identified data where we've got an individual who's interacting with us in some way. So you may have order delivery details, you may have digital identity details, you may have finance details, for example, but you've got that contact data. You will also have some behavioral data. So you'll understand how that individual has engaged with your communications, with your touch points, with your brand, with your contact center, with your site, with your emails, for example. So you'll have some idea of that. How often are they complaining? How much are they spending? Will come over from behavioral data into transactional data. So looking at the product mix. What have they viewed? What have they bought? What have they abandoned? What have they subscribed to? What have they donated? How are they pulling that relationship with you? And what money are they spending with you? So, and for each organization, there will be different data that you will be collating as part of your activity. Now that data may be in a CDP, it may be in a CRM system, it may be in a legacy system, it might be in a digital marketing platform, but you'll have that data around your organization. And that data needs care. This is a perfectly sensible representation of my physical address. If I've ordered something from you, you may well have delivered it to that address. But would your organization correctly realize that that's a mangled version of me? That is me, as heard over the telephone, giving my email address? Well, at a push, you might. The phonetic sound of the surname might be identifiable, the phonetic sound of the company name might be identifiable, and there's an identifiable domain in there that matches the company name on the first example. So B2B data, as we'll touch on a few times during this afternoon, it's harder. But you might be able to get hold of that data. And really, this is a topic we'll come back to. First-party data is valuable to you. You need to ensure that your whole organization and every touch point understands that value and ensures that it's being working on that data as it comes to you. So first-party data needs cleaning. It needs looking after, it needs duplicates removing, it needs gonaways and deceased removing from it. It will need a preference center because you're going to communicate to these individuals. You want to know their individual preferences. What channels are they prepared to consent to communication or contractual communications with you, for example. And really the challenge is to ensure that every touch point around your organization, whether it's the branch managers, or it's the point of sales team, or it's the street team, or it's the digital team, everybody needs to be thinking about how do we collect identifiable data that we can use. And at the end of today, I'm going to give you a QR code for an e-guide, lots of case studies of this type of work. One of them is a tyre business, tyre replacement and MOT business, and they explained to their branch managers why data was worthwhile, because that data would fill the branch, make the MOT slots more productive, make the branch more profitable, and pay bonuses as a result. So all the way down the organization, you can show the value of clean data. So make sure you're looking after it. But also look at external data sets that can enrich your first-party data. Although you are collecting that data, there are sources that you can use that are either commercial or open source to enrich your data, to check your data, to validate it, and to top it up so that you get more out of your first-party data. Now that might include geodemographic classifications, for example. There are loads of them in the industry. You can choose to subscribe to those. There might be digital classifications, so digital footprint can help someone understand the type of person you're dealing with. Even the device identifiers will help you know something about the people that you're dealing with. So look at how you can collect that type of information into your first-party data. Now, as I touched on a minute ago with the example of me at my company, B2B first-party data is just harder. It's smaller volumes, that's fine, but there are typically many more attributes, and organizations are more fluid, they're more challenging to follow and to track, and to know who is doing what in the organization. And that means you need to allow for a different set of data. And whether you are B2C, B2B, not-for-profit targeting, there will be different strengths in the first-party data that you collect. In B2B particularly, the challenge is to know who's around the table, who's making the decision, who's influencing that decision, who's making the contractual purchase, for example. How are you going to be able to communicate to those people, personalizing your message to them as an individual, but understanding that they form part of a whole in the business. And finally, just on B2B, you need to understand the whole corporate tree, so that if you are dealing with a branch, it might be part of a subsidiary that has a parent company in this country that has an ultimate parent somewhere else in the world. So understanding the whole ownership tree is part of that challenge of B2B. But whether you are dealing with B2B or you are dealing with B2C, you've got to go and break down some silos. You will find as you look around your organization that there is first-party data in different silos. There might be the social team over there might be the digital team over there might be the customer service team over here, there might be the CRM team over there. Challenge is to go and link all of that together, and there are tools that you can use, there are techniques you can use to ensure that that first-party data is brought together. How are you going to do that? You're going to convince the data owners in each of those silos that they and their team will benefit from the wider position. You need a strong hand on the project to show leadership, to show that that data is worthwhile in some sort of central organization structure. And then you can start breaking down those silos, start seeing a picture of the whole of the person, the whole of their relationship with your brand, and then you have a chance of recognizing the whole value of that and treating them accordingly. If their data is split up in different silos, you won't possibly be able to recognize all the characteristics of the individual. So, here's a few techniques that we are going to go through, and we'll start with some very simple ideas: segmentation, leading to personalization, leading to individualization. So segmentation, the act of carving up your first-party data into segments, into groups or categories that you can classify, that you can probably describe in some way, and that you can use for action. And a really obvious use of this is for driving social ads. So you will take segments from your first-party data and use those with automated tools to drive your ad sets on your social platforms. You can be refining those segments every day as new customers arrive, as new segments are identified, and as you prepare new marketing treatments, and then you're uploading those segments as custom audiences to the social platforms where they can then serve ads. Automate that. You don't need to be doing it by hand. You don't need a social team with a silo down the corridor doing it by hand. There are tools that can do that for you. You create the segments, the tools will automate driving the ad sets and the lookalikes. And that's great for acquisition marketing. You're going to go after new active customers. That segment might be based on a variety of different things. It could be to do with transactions, could be to do with characteristics of the person or the source that you have got to. But at that point, you are dealing with a group. And that group might segment itself very naturally. There may be natural classifications in the data that you're collecting to do with products or channels or something like that that means it's very natural. Or you may have to slice up the segments. You may have to create them yourself and then force them. And one that is very common and very useful across almost all businesses: recency, frequency, value. Here's a simple RFV matrix. So we have up the left-hand side how recently the consumer or brand, or business has talked to you. Across the bottom, how frequently they've interacted, and the color shows the value of that interaction. So you can start to see where the value is, possibly in this case, typically in the top right-hand corner, but you could look at average values and start using that segmentation, RFV, recency, frequency, value, to determine how you're going to drive your social ads or the other types of communications that we will come on to. You might do segmentation in B2B with activity, size, and geography. It's a classic way of subdividing a business-to-business universe. You might use RFV, as I said, date, time, and value, all contributing to how you're going to segment someone. But then we'll get on to personalization. I think we all understand personalization, the use of personal characteristics in the marketing presentation. Very straightforward to insert text into every aspect of your communication, but we'll show today how we're going to go on to a bit further with individualization. And this, I think, is standard techniques where the industry is at. Individualization goes further. It takes it to one-to-one messaging, where the entire content of the message is formed appropriate for that particular individual. That means that every aspect of the message that's served in the call center script or in the email that you're broadcasting is customized and is dynamic. It's driven by models and scores and by AI, and not by you or your marketing team writing some content that is just going to be fixed in place. You will actually be taking a dynamic approach to every aspect. Dynamic choice of channel, dynamic choice of time, dynamic choice of subject, dynamic choice of offer, of price, of color, of image, of video, everything driven that way. So we're going to use analysis to drive that so that we can recognize people as individuals. We're all different. We may come together for a barbecue on the beach, but we're all different people. We've all got different interests, and we want to recognize that. So let's think about some levels of individualization. How are we going to step up through the hierarchy? Let's start with basic individualization. This is like personalization, but looking, for example, at a closest branch. So what do we need to do that? We need data about our store network, we need the customer physical location somehow, we need some way of calculating distances, and then we can personalize or individualize that message according to their location. If we go to an intermediate level, we might be looking at product recommendation. So using the algorithm to decide what products to offer to that particular individual. No longer just doing a campaign for a particular product, we're doing a campaign today where the details that are inserted are driven by this individual's previous interactions with our brand. And to do that, you need the full transaction history, you need the stock position, you need the offer, and then you can form some sort of individual offer for that person. My example, someone who's bought a laptop in the past, you might offer them a standing desk so they're no longer sat on the sofa doing their work. And if we're looking at how to get more advanced, then I think, as you'll see right round the show, you'll be looking at how can you get AI to help you with that content. So rather than writing the content yourself, using generative AI to deliver that. Now the important point here, my premise, is that a generalized language model will produce perfectly reasonable content for you, but it won't light your fires. It won't light your audience's fires. It won't really make them sit up and pay attention. What brings it to life is the ability to upload to OpenAI or other language models a vector database with the details of this particular individual or this cohort, so that the communications written for James Alty is different from the next person, is different from the next person. So you're actually creating content for each individual, where the language model and the AI is informed by the entire transaction history that you've uploaded. You can do that now. You can upload a vector database now, collate your first-party data as I've described, upload it, so that the subject line and the content in my example authored for you by the AI on a full knowledge of the transaction history. There are people now already using AI to generate the content. I just heard an example this morning where a marketing director has signed off 6 months worth of content without being told that it was an AI that was generating the content, no longer being written by team members, being written by the AI that had been deployed. They only told the marketing director after 6 months. So how are you going to use all that? Well, you're going to need engines. You're going to need a mechanism to drive the process. That mechanism has got to be multi-user, multi-channel, multi-wave, high scale, able to talk to all sorts of different delivery touch points. Consumers will make different choices about where they're going to receive this messaging from you, and you want to be able to optimize those journeys. So journeys that are working are kept and promoted, journeys that are failing are dropped, campaigns that are failing that are stopped, and you need to be able to listen as much as you speak. So listening to the reaction from these individuals rather than just pushing messages at them all the time. We all know about the balance of over-communication, the appropriate level of communication in the customer life cycle changes. You know, if you're buying a car, you want to hear all about it while you're in those weeks of making the decision. Once you bought it, actually slow down, keep me in touch with the brand, I don't need to know about everything every day. So get an engine that can do that sort of thing for you. And remember, there's all sorts of thresholds. As you start thinking, who are we marketing to? Got all these great techniques. Are they marketable? So do we have a marketable, contactable record? Is it deliverable? Do we have the right contact details? Is it acceptable to market? So will our finance team accept it, for example, as a prospect? Is it unsuppressed? So it's a record that has not been flagged as suppressed. Are you communicating through this individual's preferred channel? Have you targeted them for a communication? And have you prioritized them right now for a communication? So there's a long list of hurdles that an individual has to get over in order to actually make it into those journeys. And as you start those journeys and as you put in place those engines and mechanisms, measurement is absolutely vital. You've got to be able to measure what is happening. Now, it's probably not with a vernier scale, but a digital measure looking at a control group. So measuring against activity that I'll explain in a moment in a control group. And you're looking at the ratios in individual campaigns and across the whole organization, looking for outliers that are positive and negative, and as I said a minute ago, stopping campaigns that don't work. What's a control group? I hope you know this. It's not complex marketing theory, but it is absolutely fundamental. If you're putting all this effort into individualization, you've got to be able to prove to the rest of the organization that you are doing something useful. And the only way you can establish that is a properly structured control group. It's just like in pharmacy. You know, if you're going to take a drug, you want to know that they've tested it properly and they can see the lift. Here we're doing marketing on the same basis, so it's a fundamental, and essentially you choose to hold back a relatively small proportion of people that you would otherwise have targeted. You've then got two groups, those that were contacted and those that were not. You can measure the response from those that were contacted, measure the response from those that were not, and the ratio difference between them is the effect of your marketing. Now, as a nicety on that, you can keep a silent cohort. Now that could be a small group who never receive any direct communications from your brand, but you know of them. They are customers of you. They only see the above the line marketing, anything you're doing on mass media rather than direct. That's fine, you know, that's a nicety, but you've got to have a control group. And that control group is what will allow you to justify your marketing budget. The marketing budget granted to you guys by the rest of your organization is a privilege. And it's a privilege that we use sensibly and professionally to prove that we are going to get the proper return. And if you like, that budget is a limited resource that you are betting in the marketplace. You are choosing where to place your money and your spend on ads or broadcast or print or calls or whatever you do, or messaging, whatever you are doing, and you need to be able to show that you can swing the odds in your favor. And that's what analytics and individualization is going to do for you. If you're successful, you'll grow your revenues. If you're not, then the organization won't give you the same budget next year. Now, just start thinking about some of the straight ratios that you need for this. So you're going to look at your response rate. Why would you do individualization? Because you want to know that your response rate has lifted. You're going to look at the response rate from those two groups, times 100, make it a percentage. You're going to look at your average order value lift. So if you're selling product or service, have you managed to drive that value up? Look at the average order value from the marketed cohort compared with the control group. Again, make it a percentage. Look at your revenue generation. So you're looking at your average order value by your marketed response rate, by your marketed volume. You could be running forecasts live all of the time, estimating for your organization what revenue is associated with the marketing. You can look at your cost all of the time. So do you know how much you're spending on your team, on your content, on your production, on your downstream channels, for example? Pull all of that together in your delivery costs, and then, and only then, can you start claiming the return on investment of all of this work to communicate individually. Why have you done it? Because you want that equation to be positive. You want to show that having allowed for all those aspects, you have got a positive ROI. Now remember, cost savings can come in various different times. This one amuses me because it ends up being rot, return on time. So stop the rot. Don't let people spend ages working on content that isn't going to be productive, isn't going to give you a return, and particularly for your more costly channels where you're paying out bucks to communicate. Think about that time. Now, to finish with, I've got 10 examples. I'm going to have to be quick. 10 examples to help you get started. So number one, we all do it, a welcome communication. Detail the order and the value, welcome that person, welcome on board, here's how to contact our service team. Number two, think about the anniversaries. Use your first party data, look at your transaction history, send them a message to say, this is the 3rd anniversary of your first order with us. We hope you're still happy with the product. Would you like to buy more of it? Remember, every one of these messages you should be making individual to that person. Number three, cross-selling, upselling, using an algorithm to decide what products to offer to that person. We know that they've bought certain products in the past, other people have bought related products. Let's go make them an offer. Give them an easy way to talk to their account manager, not just the website. Number four, look at loyalty in their relationship. How much are they spending with you? Can you reward them? Can you build a marketing loyalty scheme that means you're rewarding them for the communications, for the purchases, and communicate that to them. Number five, use their location to make an event invitation. Make that personal. Invite them in as a special person to come and experience the brand values and, in this case, a new product launch, for example. Number six, give them an enhanced preference center. Make sure you're thinking about how you're collecting their communication preferences, because each individual wants you to respect that, and privacy matters. And adherence to their preferences and their consent, absolutely fundamental in the UK Data Protection Act and GDPR. Education, why not link them into personal education content? Get that course content created from everything that you know they've experienced of your brand. The communications they've had, the products they've purchased, the subscriptions, the donations, whatever it is that they are doing. Link them to education. Why not link them to climate change? Everybody, I think, now is aware of the need to change our behaviors. Why not use your brand as a leader? See if you can find a cohort in your audience who subscribe to that, who would appreciate that, and tell them how many trees you've planted on their behalf because of the products that they've purchased, for example. Number 9, cost of living. You know, we're all under pressure. Brands are seeing that getting squished a bit. So why not recognize those people who are loyal to you? How hard is it to recruit a new customer compared with keeping an existing customer? First party data is all about your existing customers. Treat them well, treat them individually, treat them like a VIP, and you can give them a special offer because they'll stay with you. And last but not least, just flip it around. On the anniversary of your organization's first day, why not send them a gift? To celebrate the fact that you are in a business relationship, a supporter relationship, whatever, with them. So again, making it individual to them. So key takeaways, final slide, what have we learned? First party data is valuable, we collect it anyway, let's use it. It needs investment to clean it, manage it, look after it. You need strong analytics to bring it to life, create segments and do the scores and models and AI that will drive your individualization. It can give you a significantly improved return on investment. I've not shown the examples today. In a minute, I'm going to put up the QR code for the e-guide that supports all of this. You can take a picture of it. You've learned a little bit about measuring the ROI. And I've explained that consistency of measurement particularly is important all the way through your campaigns. We've seen 10 little examples, and I've finished just by saying AI can be customized. That's a takeaway. Think about how you customize AI. Don't just go use ChatGPT and say, please write me some content for whatever I do. That's great, but yeah, so let's do something a bit more interesting. And finally, there you go. If you'd like to see some of the case studies from Aptico that sustain this, lots of brands, lots of different sectors. We've put some cards out on the chairs that were free, or my colleagues at the back and the side have got the QR codes on the cards for you. I'm James Alty, thank you very much. Sorry, I overran by 5 minutes.